Hello and welcome to The Telescope. Every week we'll bring you a fresh insight from the biggest car market in the world. Today's car is the hugely anticipated Zeekr Mix. This is the most courageous car I've ever seen in the electric era. They managed to squeeze a wheelbase of over 3 meters long into a body that's only 4.6 meters long. This is the ultimate cabin space maximization. It's got doors you've never seen before. It's got seats you've never seen before. Everything inside the cabin moves with just a touch of a button. So you might wonder, with all of these flexibilities, what you can actually do with them. Instead of me trying to come up with all the possibilities, Zeekr, look behind me, they have laid out every conceivable configuration. So let's go check them out. I have to say, not every configuration works. For example, I don't quite understand how would this work in real life. I don't know how these two bikes get here. And once I put one bike inside, nobody can actually sit inside anymore. And if I want to unload this and drive back home, where should I put these two bikes? So this doesn't really work. This setup, however, I think it does work. It's been rotated facing this way. Let's imagine you are facing a lake. And yeah, I can really see this. I can really see myself use this setup. But I think the one scenario that does work fantastically well is this sort of a meeting room scenario. I can have a private meeting here, fully enclosed, or I can play a cardboard with my kids with this big table fully extended. This is a very usable private meeting room. Or instead of one big table, you could, like this one, have 2 or 3 smaller tables. So one of you could be working, having a video conference. Your family relatives could enjoy some snacks. Probably not as elaborate as these though. I think these are very overdone, but you could see the kind of fun and flexibility this space is given to by the all-electric drivetrain. You might wonder, how could this car just come out of the blue? How could someone have so many crazy ideas jammed into one car? Well, the backstory is this car was supposed to be the robo-taxi of Waymo, the American robo-taxi operator. This whole process, the development process for the Waymo robo-taxi, ended up costing Geely so much pain and investment, they thought, maybe we should make a passenger car out of this. So what they did is replace the 400-volt drivetrain from the Waymo and replace it with the 800-volt up-to-date electric drivetrain from the other Zeekr models. They also lift the chassis slightly up a little bit because the Waymo was only supposed to operate in urban conditions, so the ground clearance is very small. This has a 165, very generous SUV level ground clearance. Now, Waymo is an American robo-taxi operator, so as a result, this car is fully compliant with US crash safety standards. Look at these two very chunky A-pillars. The downside of this is this car has the worst front quarter visibility I've seen on any car. To some people, this might really become a problem. Another cost of having such short front overhang and having to comply with US crash safety standards is that this car does not have a front motor. But what this car does have is crazy turning radius. This car is not that much shorter than the Volkswagen ID Buzz, but this car's turning radius is 4.95 meters, while the ID Buzz is 5.55 meters. That difference is because this car does not have a front motor, so the wheels can turn that much further into the body because there's nothing at the center of the nose. All the doors, they swing out. Watch this. To create this huge opening, this looks very inviting, right? This floor is only 390 millimeters tall off the ground. That's quite something when you consider this car has a ground clearance of 165 millimeters. Now, the obvious question comes when you're watching this huge door, huge hole on the side of the body, how the hell could this car pass the side impact test? Well, the answers are they've built B-pillars into these doors. this car effectively has got two B-pillars, and they've built super strong hinges on the top and the bottom of the body. So when these two doors close, the B-pillars inside the doors reconnects with the top and the bottom of this body. This car has stronger side impact than most traditional B-pillars. This is what a 3-meter wheelbase on a 4.6-meter long car gives you. Have you ever seen such elaborate seats on a car this small and this ridiculous amount of legroom? Now, this is definitely an overkill if you only sit this way, but all of these space will come in very handy when you rotate the seats around, when the two passengers are sitting face to face. It's the heaviest spec of them all because it's got everything. It's 2.7 tons. Yes, no 4.6-meter long car have this much amount of interior space, and I don't think there's has ever been a 4.6-meter long car that weighs as much as this, 2.7 ton. If you choose the smaller battery, the 76.8 kilowatt-hour battery, that's 2.6 tons. And if you don't want all of these rotating seats and all of these things that moves on the inside of the cabin, then you can choose not to have it. But there's no getting away from it. Even at a base spec, you still get all of those doors. You still get all of these mechanisms that weighs quite a lot. Does that matter in real life? I don't really think so, because it's an MPV. Yes, it's not a big MPV, but it's still an MPV. And you just will not drive an MPV, no matter how small and light they are, as aggressively as you drive a SUV or even a saloon. You won't push this car on the road that hard. And on the chassis, this car is not uncompromisingly soft. Surprise, surprise. It actually gives you a reasonable amount of road information, partially because this is not on X suspension. This is on conventional coil springs, and it doesn't have adaptive dampers because air suspension takes up more space, and this car is all about space. Power, this car is single motor rear wheel drive only, but you have 420 horsepower, so still enough. So 420 horsepower on a 2.7 ton car means this car to 100 kilometers acceleration is about 6.5 seconds. So still fast, and they've tuned the power delivery to be very smooth. You know, a 6.5 seconds car, if it's a GTI, could still be very punchy. This is not punchy at all. Any dislikes? This car is compact longitudinally. However, this car is also very wide. This is a 2-meter wide car. Now, that would be okay if this is what it's originally supposed to be. This car originally has a 3+3 configuration. That is, you have 3 seats at the front. Geely even filed the patent. You can check it. It's publicly available information. They have this seat ready, that when it's folded down, it's like a center armrest, but it's folded up, it's a 3+3. That would make sense for this car to be a 2-meter wide car. But China has I think this piece of regulation needs to be updated, that on the front seats, China requires the front seats to have a minimum width of 400 millimeters. And that just puts the third seat out of the question. So this car could be even more practical than what it is right now, but unfortunately, because of regulation, it can't be. Second dislike, well, this is not a dislike, it's just something you need to be aware of. It's an inevitable cost to this car's boxy shape, is that this car is not that efficient, not that energy efficient. We've been driving this car today for about 120 kilometers, and with about 1/3 of them being highway driving. And this car is averaging 19.6 kilowatt hour. Considering this car is single motor rear wheel drive, that is not a very efficient electric vehicle. Now, 2 reasons. First of all, this car is very boxy. When you have minimum front and rear overhang and you need to have this much interior space, then inevitably it's a boxy car. They've rounded off all of the sharp edges, but there's no getting away from the fact that this is still quite boxy. Secondly, it's the weight. This car is quite heavy. So on the 76 kilowatt hour battery, you realistically can expect maybe 350 kilometers real world range. On a 100 kilowatt hour battery, maybe close to 500 kilometers. On the highway, maybe 450. So you just need to be aware of that this car is not that energy efficient. It's not that Zeekr doesn't know how to make an energy efficient electric vehicle. The Zeekr 007 is quite efficient, but because of this car's physical dimensions and weight, it's as efficient as current EV technologies can be. On closing thoughts, I can't summarize this car, not right now, because my head is still trying to process with everything that moves. If this moves, if that rotates, how many of these combinations actually have real world value and how many of them are just gimmicks? However, while I'm still trying to process with all of that, you cannot say Zeekr didn't try hard enough. They've gone to lengths that no one has ever been before. On pricing, we're filming this on September the 18th, about 5 days ahead of the actual launch. I suspect this car, the base spec, without the rotating seats, without everything that moves, everything becomes fixed in place, with the base 76.5 kilowatt hour battery, should be around 250,000 renminbi. That's what, 33,000 euros. I could be wrong, but normally I'm quite correct on these price estimations. So not as pricey as you might imagine. If you want such innovative and reasonably priced electric vehicle in your country, well, you can't. Your politicians have almost decided for you 20% tariff, 100% tariff. There's nothing you can do. Tough luck. That is all from the Telescope today. If you enjoyed this video, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming along very soon.